Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Promised End podcast. My name is Zar. I'm from Chanderi Beats.
And I'm John from the YouTube channel Oh My, It's John. So today, we're gonna talk about one of the topics that's really close to our hearts. Something that I think every Filipino in our generation, and in future generations as well, have been experience, and will experience in the future. We will talk about MMORPGs or many men online role playing girls. No, it's massively multiplayer online role playing games.
Okay, MMORPGs. Again, this is about massively multiplayer online role playing games.
Many men online role playing girls.
And it's undeniable that MMORPGs have been a very big part of the pop culture, basically, here in the Philippines. It has become mainstream, and a lot of kids are into it right now. But we would like to talk about how it started, where it all began.
Yes, we're gonna talk about the golden age of MMORPGs here in the Philippines. Possibly the years from around 2001 up to 2007. Yeah.
Okay. Um, John, what was your first exposure to MMORPGs?
I'm actually an old MMORPG player. Before everything started, I played this MMORPG called The Myth of Soma. It's a really, really old game, and it's like a paid version of a game, of an online game, that I need to ride the credit card of one of my friends just to access the game. It's a really old game, but I love it so much. The reason why I love that game is because I played other multiplayer games that involves dungeon crawling and exploring before, like Diablo. There's Diablo. There's Titan Quest, um, and other games in that specific format or manner. So here in the Philippines, I was one of the lucky ones who experienced Myth of Soma first. Yeah. So how about you?
This game, Myth of Soma. This is actually the first time for me to
To hear it.
to hear about it because my first exposure to MMORPGs would be Ragnarok Online. I think this is true for a lot of MMORPG gamers here in the Philippines.
Yes. And also, here in the Philippines, Ragnarok Online has been well received and well loved by a lot of other subcultures in the Philippines, even the music scene. There's Kamikaze writing a song about it.
Oh yeah.
There are tons of cosplay and events that paid homage to Ragnarok Online. So let's go off and start with that and talk about that. What is Ragnarok Online?
Well, Ragnarok Online is basically again an MMORPG with that is heavily based on Norse mythology. Basically, Ragnarok, the end of or the twilight of the gods, as we call as it is known, and it plays heavily on that. It features a lot of characters in Norse mythology. So most of these are bosses or NPCs, and it's a class based MMO. Basically, you get to choose what you want to become.
But most people don't know that the Ragnarok Online that we are playing is actually based from a manhwa. A manhwa is a Korean styled comic similar to the Japanese manga. So the manhwa is written by Lee Myung-jin, and it's based around the main character named Chaos. So that's why most of the Ragnarok online servers throughout the world have Chaos as their primary server or their first server because the protagonist was named Chaos. He's a rune knight, which is one of the jobs in the future in current meta of Ragnarok. He's a rune knight that travels around the world, and he didn't know that he was the reincarnation of the god Balder, the one that where Loki threw a mistletoe branch at him and he died.
Yes.
So that it's based around that manhwa. It plays heavily around those uh, materials or things around that manhwa, and because of the hit of Ragnarok Online, Lee Myung Jin decided to drop the manhwa sadly and focus on making the game more great according to the ideas he had on his head that's supposed to be in the manhwa.
That's very sad to hear.
Yeah.
I remember reading a bit of it back in the day, but to be honest, I was not able to comprehend everything because I read one of the chapters in the middle, and I was able to see a bit of chaos, but I really didn't understand. I didn't know what it was about. But yeah, I there was a lot of art that surfaced back in the day. Basically, you had a lot of these art books. Also, the manhwa itself was localized, or rather, it was translated into English, and they sold it a lot back in the day.
Yeah.
But sadly, have not read it.
Actually, in today's current Ragnarok meta, or just a couple years back, they actually paid homage to the manga, and they made updates on Ragnarok Online, in order to include the characters from the manhwa, which is Chaos, Loki, Fenrir. Some of the bosses are named after them, and they drop items, etc. The face worm queen was there. There are a lot of things. Old Glastheim, old Fion. They called it Fion, not Pion. I don't know why. Yeah, it's the name of the. And there's, if you remember the server names, of course, there's Fenrir, Odin, Chaos, the first one, then Loki. Loki was the assassin. I think you'd really love to see that guy because Zar's class was an assassin, but same as mine, of course, because they were cool. But I kind of fucked up my build, so I went dagger class.
Well, let's talk about how you actually play Ragnarok Online. Basically, you register, of course, and it brings you to a simple character creation screen. You get to choose your initial stats and your hairstyle and your gender as well.
And your character name, which is back then were edgy as fuck. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people. Even mine was alt 0153R exclamation point CKS T no 01553 3R, which spelled trickster.
I used to stay away from those kinds of names, but I used Japanese names instead. That was how edgy I was back in the day. I really wanted to emulate the Japanese, so I would name my characters Tessen or Arui, stuff like that.
Hidetaro Tomoyuki. Also, so you start in the game as a novice. You go to a training area. Then after that, it will give you a short quiz, and you'll be able to choose what kind of path do you want according to what if you actually answered the quiz truthfully. It will give you a preferred or your a class that suits to your playstyle. Actually, that was a really interesting part of the game that no one really cared about. But seriously, when we started in the beta, a lot of us actually paid or heeded the that quiz results, and I actually got merchant just because I fucking love money.
Because you're a greedy bastard.
Yes, I'm a greedy bastard. I admit it. I'm doing this for the money. Hi, guys.
I remember taking that test, and my result was Archer. I don't really understand why. So I was spawned in the Archer town after
Fire.
the beginner area, and I saw a swordsman, and I just wanted to be a swordsman so badly that I asked one of the other players who were playing in the shop. I asked one of the players for directions, and they actually had to take you to that town in order for you to become a swordsman, because the classes are split into the different areas of the world, and in order for you to advance to the class that you want, you have to undergo a test in that particular city or town. So it was an awesome experience. Basically, I talked to a merchant, and she was very kind, and she actually escorted me to the swordsman town, Frontera. Sadly, while on the way, I saw this cute monster, and I thought I could take it on, and it turns out that it was a savage babe, and it actually killed me. I had to go. I had to return to the starting town, the Archer town, Payon, and the merchant had to walk all the way back to Payon to escort me.
And the funny thing is, Czar didn't actually paid heed to, or rather took the swordsman route, so the merchant's effort was all in vain because Czar turned out that he liked to be a thief more. Pero there's this thing in Ragnarok Online that you can actually it's free as hell. You can, not free in terms of money, you need to pay for it in order to play it when it went live. But what I mean by free is you're free to choose whatever you want to do in the game. If you want to be an asshole in the game, it's okay. You will get banned, but there are subtle acts of assholery, and those things make the game more fun. Actually, I remember the priests warping you to GH. GH was the leveling spot in the game, but they won't actually warp you to GH, but to a area in another map that's stuck, and you cannot get out of it unless you have specific items. And they have alternate characters there that are vending the items that you actually need to get out of that place. So it's a really, really scammy piece of shit technique. But those are the things that make the game fun. To not be lured in by traps. And it's funny because the priests are the one who's doing that shit. Not the thieves, not the archers, not the swordsmen, but the priests. It's so scummy. It's so it makes it way fun.
Yeah, it brings a certain level of realism to the game when people can actually trick you into doing things. Like there were even trading scams in Ragnarok, because you can also trade items in the game. But what people would do is, if you're looking for a certain item, what they would do is they would tell you that they have it, and of course they have it once you begin the trade. But they would cancel the trade, and what will happen is they'll tell you that it was an accident, that they canceled the trade accidentally, and then they will trade you again. And of course, you just accept the trade because you just want to get that item, right? But it turns out that the item that they traded you the second time you guys initiated the trade window was actually just a worthless copy of the item that you were looking for.
This actually happens a lot when you're trading cards, because there's the card icon is just one, even though there are a lot of different cards. The card icon on the inventory is just one. So if you don't hover above that item, instead of getting that rare Ragic card, you just get a pouring card instead, and it sucks so bad. I was victimized by this, and I just laughed it off and didn't play for a week So yeah, it's my fault for being scammed. But again, these things, even though they're scummy as hell, these make the games so fun to play because you you're interacting with different kinds of people from different walks of life, doing different kinds of shit. Whether it's leveling, it's so fun to level with people that are like-minded as you. As like, hey, I just want to kill this stuff, and they're like, okay, we're gonna back you up, bro.
Well, let's get back to the basics for a bit. Basically, in Ragnarok, like we discussed a while ago, you get to choose your. Well, basically, you start out as a novice. That's the beginner class, and then you level up for a bit. And once you're eligible to change classes, you just take an exam in a specific area, and basically you once you pass the test, you get to change to that class. And there are several classes in the game. Basically, you have swordsman, you have thief, archer, acolyte, and mage.
Merchant, don't
Oh yes.
forget the merchants, man. The merchants are there for a reason, man.
Well, yeah, you can't forget about the merchants. They are actually very very important in the game. Now, once you reach your or once you change classes, the goal is to keep leveling up, and it's going to be a really long journey. You'll have to level up to a certain level where you can change classes again, and this time it changes you to a more advanced version of that class that you started out as. Um, Basically, for swordsman, you change classes into knight. For thief, you change classes into assassin. For merchant, you become a blacksmith. For acolyte, you turn into a priest. And for mage, you become a wizard.
And for archers, you become hunters.
Oh, yes, archers. Now, in order for you to get to that level, you'll have to actually fight a lot of monsters. And the beauty of the game is you can team up with other people, and once you party up, you can share experience points between each other. Even if the others are not fighting, you can set an even share experience rule, and basically this allows non-combat classes like the merchant and the acolyte to level up. And basically, through the beauty of partying, you experience you basically make memories with a lot of people, and basically you share the journey of just leveling up, finding items, and fighting monsters with a lot of other players. So it's a very social game.
Yes, MMORPGs like Ragnarok Online are these are staple mechanics inside these kinds of games, and partying up, leveling up with other people, socially interacting with other people, even though it's online and in game. You cannot you can play the game solo, but you need there will always be points in the game that you need to socialize with others. So since we talked about Ragnarok and the class system, there after that there are a lot of other games that spawned. Actually, while Ragnarok was being popular, there was another popular MMORPG at that time, which has graphics that catered to a much mature audience, which was MU. I don't know what MU means.
It, isn't it Monsters Underworld or something?
Wow, I just knew that. I didn't even know. So anyway, so MU was a game that actually resembled the older games that we've played. Like what I've mentioned before was um, Diablo and Myth of Soma. MU was actually the spiritual successor of those games, since Ragnarok had this cartoony, cutesy graphics that wasn't. Some players or some people didn't really like uh, that aspect of the game since it was too cartoony for them. So a lot of people played MU, and In MU, instead of having a novice class, you can actually choose your class. You can actually choose your class in the start. So there's there's the swordsman, the mage, and the elf. So they actually added another class, the wizard or warlock or something. I forgot. It was a long ago that since I've played MU.
Isn't it Dark Lord?
Dark Lord, yeah, dude, that one. And Dark Lord had this mount, the Dark Horse. It's so cool, and the Dark Lord I was playing as an elf because it's the only female character back then. I was playing as a muse elf. I didn't use my female charms to get items. Don't worry, guys. I didn't scam you. But when Dark Lord just uh, when Dark Lord got released here in the Philippines, I just transferred classes, and it has all the elements I want. It wears black. It has the dark horse. The hair was white. Then there's the chains. Oh, spirits. It was so cool. MU was so fun back then, and it's one hell of a game, and it actually MU actually got me splitting up my time with Ragnarok and MU. I was splitting up, and after that, after experiencing those two games, I began to just journey out and branch out and check out other MMORPGs out there.
I remember MU being the edgiest online game back in the day. I didn't really get into it because of the graphics. It was too dark for me, and I was more comfortable with the cute graphics of Ragnarok Online. But just like John said, a lot of players who loved Diablo back in the day really, really loved MU.
Yes, and again, if you have played MU before, we would like to know more about how you play the game. Since I've only played MU for a short while, using my Muse Elf, then going into Dark Lord, just because I was playing Ragnarok at the same time. So if you have any knowledge or want to share any fun experiences into getting that great dragon set, just comment on the comment section below, and we'd love to talk with you about it. So speaking of which, there were times that every week there's a downtime for MU and Ragnarok. And every time it's downtime in computer shops, there's there's always this game na parang it's the go-to game every time there's a maintenance. Yes, Ar.
Yeah, I can relate. This game is called Gunbound. It's not an MMORPG per se, but it's also an MMO. Basically, you play in teams in this game, and it's basically Worms. If you know the game Worms, but replace Worms with tanks, specialized tanks with their own arsenal of skills and weapons.
Yes, and don't get us wrong. If we say tanks, we mean cutely drawn little machines that have eyes, actually breeds and stuff. And these are the tanks that we see every Tuesday when it's maintenance on Ragnarok and MU.
Basically, when you see people playing Gunbound, that means either MU or Ragnarok Online is down. It's undergoing a maintenance period. But it was a fun game, and I remember advancing to through the ranks. I believe my rank back in the day was double silver axe.
Weak. I was double golden battle axe, bro. And I'm still weak because my girlfriend is a ruby fucking wand. She actually mained Gunbound for a while. So it actually made me. I was so proud of my rank. I was like, "Oh, I'm double golden battle axe," and she was, "Ah, okay." I was wand, and I just shut my trap when we were talking about Gunbound because uh, being a wand player means that you've actually mastered the concept of the game and you have that one tank, that one armored tank that you're really good at. And whenever she's using that and we're doing one-on-ones, I just don't.
Basically, the gameplay is you guys are set in an area much like worms. It's a destructible area. Basically, you can destroy the environment to create platforms or to create gaps so that your enemies will either get stuck or fall into the abyss. And you have a wide selection of tanks to choose from. Each tank has a unique design, unique weaponry as well,
Mechanic.
and they have supers. Basically, you build as you play in a match. You build a meter, I believe, and once this meter is full, you'll be able to unleash that particular tank's SS, or basically it's a super skill.
So these games, or rather Gunbound, was a really fun time waster for us whenever we're waiting for um, our main games to come up. Since Gunbound also provided like a you can chat in game with other people. If you're waiting for your turn to shoot, you can chat with them, just talk trash with them, and just all around have fun socially. So I've met a lot of people uh, really falling in love with Gunbound since it doesn't just it's not just a social game. It also involves skill, and there's angles like ultra high angle where you shoot your projectiles really really high, and if they um, hit the other team, or the opponents from the other team, you'd get a bonus for it. You oftentimes you get bonus gold, etc. And mastering these kinds of mechanics made it really fun. Okay, so since we're talking about cutesy games, oh yeah, sir.
Oh, just want to get this in before we move on to another game. I have a funny memory about Gunbound. Basically, my girlfriend also played Gunbound. And the thing is, when you're a female character in this game, you really get it good. You know, a lot of players will support you in this game. And in my girlfriend's case, she was provided a complete set of mech armor. Just because she was a girl and she had a cute name, this guy just gave her an entire set of mech armor. And basically, in this game, you have I believe several pieces of accessories that you can wear. And basically, this guy just provided her a whole set, and even the coffin attachment, which gives you like extra gold when you play.
It's fun because most pro players of Gunbound that I've known were girls. Like seriously, I think if this happens because if they're waiting for their boyfriends to finish playing Ragnarok and they don't actually like to explore and stuff, they find it boring. They just play Gunbound, very social. Some call it casual even. So that's why. Okay, so since we talked about Ragnarok and MU as MMORPGs, we forgot to mention one other MMORPG that made its way here in the Philippines and actually made a solid cult following, and this was Maple Story. Maple Story was nothing like MU and um, Ragnarok, where you can freely explore in a somewhat 2.5D or 3D environment. It's a solid 360 experience. Maple Story was a kind of like a platformer. If you played Mario, Sonic, whatever, Mega Man. It's kind of like that. It's a 2D side-scrolling game, but still an MMORPG since you're role-playing a class. Again, there's a class that you choose, and uh, Maple Story actually was really popular back then. Even in international standards, there are a lot of people that were playing Maple Story. And again, my girlfriend was another top player in that game. I don't know why she just stops in games that are cute and 2D and side scrolly, and I don't know why, man. And it was a really fun game to play as well. There were classes, of course. There's the pirate, there's the mage, there's like the knights, etc., etc. The classic staple classes in a MMORPG, and I think you can also farm, or rather farm a lot of items. I remember her telling me that before there were no shields in the game. So there's this one shield called the pan lid. It's a lid of a pan, like a cooking pan, and it's so expensive. It's massively expensive. I mean, seriously, just one shield, just one item makes everything different. If you hold it, you've you have just a little bit of defense increase in the early stages of an MMORPG. Is a massive thing between living and respawning in your starting point, your starting town.
Now, this was an old MMORPG. This came out back in, I don't know, 2004, I believe,
No,
2003.
that's 2000. I think 2002 as well. 2000.
And it is still live
Mhm.
until now. It's one of those
Oldest.
yeah, it's one of those old MMORPGs that are still live right now. And I remember playing this, but only for a short while. um, Maple Story was too cute for me. Yeah, it was too cute, but actually a good game, and the fact that a lot of it is just the fact that it's not in 3D, that it's 2D. I think that adds to its longevity because it still looks pretty decent even in today's standards.
Yeah, they didn't try to compete with the 3D standards of today's games, of today's MMOs, and kept the beauty of simplicity. There's beauty in simplicity, and they actually played that trope until now. Actually, there's an upcoming game, Maple Story 2. Maple Story 2 is set in a 3D environment, but what made it different from the other 3D games, MMORPGs of today, is it's still a platformer. So seriously, you can still climb stuff if you just decide for the camera angle to keep it as a side-scrolling game. Yeah, you can play that way. Or if you want to check out the whole area, you can. And I think I saw in the we call this official trailers that there are uh, objects in the environment that you can uh, destroy and make makeshift weapons out of. It's a really fun game, and we're actually looking forward to playing it since it's really cute, and it's a totally new what do you call this, experience, so to speak, since we're kind of bored of the new MMORPGs today, which we'll gonna tackle on why we're bored of the new MMORPGs today later on. Okay, so after Maple Story, there's another side-scrolling MMORPG that's kind of different. Again, it's on a different format. Since Ragnarok and MU allowed you to explore the whole areas, then Maple Story is basically still a 2D platformer, but still in allows you to explore different areas. KOG, King of Games, in Korea introduced a game that just shattered the this trope, this trend, and it came to be known as Grand Chase. Okay.
Grand Chase. This is actually one of the better looking games of the era. Back then, people were getting bored of the 3D aesthetic. Basically, because most MMOs just, they all look the same.
Mhm.
After a while, after playing a lot of MMOs, they start looking the same. But Grand Chase it's something special. It's basically a side-scrolling. It's sort of a side-scrolling brawler.
Mhm.
If you've played games like Double Dragon or Final Fight, it's somewhat similar to that, but the difference is you create a room, and basically you can either play solo or you can allow other players to join you, and you guys fight, or rather you guys get transported into an area, and this area is divided into several stages, just like a traditional brawler. And at the end of the area, the very last level, you fight the area boss. And the mechanic is very different from other MMORPGs back in the day, because back then, you just click on an enemy and you just let the computer calculate. You just let the server calculate the damage, if your character dodges or not. That's all taken care of by the computer. But in Grand Chase, you fight actively.
Mhm.
You have your attack buttons. You can jump, you can move, you can dash, and basically you have complete control of your character. Now, I only played this for a short while, and I enjoyed it. But John, take over. I know you're a Grand Chase addict. I know that you mastered this game.
Yeah, I actually played Last Main, and Last is this blue guy who's started from like a dual wielding thief.
Oh, talk about the classes. How does it work?
Okay, so the classes in Grand Chase are divided not just per class. There's this swordsman, the mage. No, in Grand Chase, the class themselves are like real characters in the game. So, for example, you start off with the basic of the basics, the basic jobs on of all the characters. You want to play as a swordsman. You play as Elysis, the swordsman girl. Yeah, she's the token, like red swordsman heroine of the game. So after that, the game started with three characters. There were Elysis, Arme, and Amy, and these characters. If I was that right, Elysis. Let me just check. It was really a long time since I've played Grand Chase. So again, there's Elysis, Arme. If I remember correctly, Arme is the mage. She's purple. Yeah, she's purple. Arm is the purple mage, whose mechanics are way different from Elysis, since Arm is a mage. So after that, there's the archer Lyre. Lyre was the green elf girl, the token elf girl. Excuse me. Lyre was the token elf girl, and these three made up the starting classes of the game. As Grand Chase expanded more and more, they kept adding other characters. There's Ronan. If Elysis was like the attack swordsman, Ronan was more of the defensive type, like a paladin class. There's Last the Thief. That's my favorite class. I actually made into the top 10 rankings of within the month I played Grand Chase, just because I love this class so much. Yeah.
So basically, pretty much like a brawler or a fighting game, you choose a character to play as, but it does not restrict you to that character. You can choose whoever you want. and you won't lose any time or experience or whatever. You can choose whoever you want, and each character is unique. Basically, they have a story, and each character has their own set of special moves and supers as well. So pretty much like a fighting game or a brawler, that's how you select characters in this game, and that's what makes it unique, because it really requires a bit of time you don't have
master.
to invest a ton of time in order for your character to reach the top. Basically, you just have to study your character, master your moves, and you'll be playing like the pros.
Also, in Grand Chase, for example, again, I told you guys about Alice's earlier, and Alice is the token swordsman, but there's also class changes in this game. Alice's can, or almost all characters can class advance into their fourth level, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And Alice's has the swordsman job for her first. Her second job is a pikeman. She uses spears. The third job uses a much bigger sword, a great sword, and the fourth job allows her to dual wield. And the beauty of this game, all of them have different levels, and all of them play differently. So you have, if you really like Alice's character story, you have 4 different types of playstyle in just one character. Just think about that. And currently Grand Chase has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times 2, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 characters times 4. You have 80 fucking classes or different types of gameplays to play. Even though there are other swordsmen, their gameplay is just different. It's like it's a whole new ball game. So every character, every class is a different play style. And if you want to master, if, for example, you just want to master all dual wielding classes, that's fine. And that I think that's the beauty of Grand Chase. It plays to the greediness of a human being in order to master something that's not really common today. Because if you play MMORPGs, you have your character and you just love it, and there's nothing wrong about that. But in Grand Chase, you can actively choose what to try on next. You're not limited by the time because you won't lose progress in the other character as well.
Do you actually level up in this game? I don't remember how
Yes.
that works.
Yes, you actually level up in the game, and the more you level up, the more skills you can use, the better stats. You have the better gear you can wear, because some gear are just level restricted. Oh, by the way, in MMORPGs, there's a level restriction in gear and equipment. So unless this is present in a lot of MMORPGs, we're gonna talk about the basics of MMORPGs later on. We're just gonna talk about the games for now. Okay, so in Grand Chase, there's actually a leveling system. If I remember correctly, you need for a certain character to advance to this next job, it needs to be at a certain level. You need to do a certain test, like collect items and stuff, before you can be allowed to use or play as the next job or as the next level. Look at this! I'm actually showing Czar some characters from Grand Chase, since a lot of these guys are so cool looking. There's this character called Uno that looks like a freaking Shinigami. Yeah.
He actually looks like a character from Ao no Exorcist. The Blue Exorcist anime. He actually looks like that. But I think that's the beauty of this game. Like Maple Story, it actually restricted itself into 2D art, and because of that, it aged well. Unlike other MMORPGs that used 3D graphics, they look dated. But Grand Chase still looks very good. Even to this day, it looks awesome.
Sadly, Grand Chase was discontinued by
Oh.
the yeah Grand Chase was discontinued. They had a really good run, but never fear. Fans of this kind of gaming MMORPG format can relive that tension by playing Elsword. Elsword is basically another game that plays exactly like Grand Chase. You have a plethora of characters to master as well, and um, it's basically Grand Chase, but on a much higher level of playstyle. I'm not saying that Grand Chase is more basic than Elsword, but this offers you more flexibility. For example, there's this character named Ad who's clearly a chuny a character made for chuny people. And chuny is like the guys that it's short for chunibyo, which are the guys that think that they're saviors of the world and there's something better for them.
Basically, Chunibyo kids are those kinds of kids who are still stuck in their own
Fantasy.
personal anime fantasy where they're some sort of protagonist with powers. And you know this type. You've seen this type, and
You've been this time.
I can't deny that.
So yeah, there's this character in El Sword named Add, and this is how the class advancement works in El Sword. In Grand Chase, you go from 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So that allows one character to have four different jobs. So again, that's 20 characters times 4. That's 80. Here in Elsword, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 10, 10, 10, 11, 12, and 13. But, for example, Ad, his basic whatever job is a let's call him 1.
Okay.
Okay, so Ad can advance into the next job after you meet certain requirements, but you can choose between Ad Add 2.1, Add 2.2, and Add 2.3. So you have these guys. The ads jobs are basically again. I told you they are tune. There's the psychic tracer, the arc tracer, and the time tracer. So the psychic tracer can then transcend into another job called the lunatic psyker. Then the arc tracer, the 2.2, can go into being a mastermind, and 2.3, the time tracer can go to the diabolic esper as its next advancement. I'm showing Czar the time tracer for Ad, and it looks like the Kaneki Kun from Tokyo Ghoul. Just look at this. This is so chuny. This is basically accelerator. It's so accelerator from Index, if you guys know about that.
Yeah, Accelerator is a character from the light novel and also anime series Toaru Majutsu no Index, which is a certain magical index. And that character has white hair, he's very edgy, and he controls vectors. And as I look at the art for AD or ADD, he indeed resembles Accelerator from that anime series. I think Elsword, much like Grand Chase, played a lot with the advancement mechanics that MMORPGs are famous for. Basically, allowing you to experience a whole new type of gameplay just by playing the same character. Basically, investing time on that character, and basically, you will get rewarded. Just invest enough time, and you will get rewarded with a new character, basically. So I think Grand Chase and Elsword, they're all about advancing the characters and gaining, other playstyles.
Yes.
But let's talk about because we sort of got got a bit in depth into Grand Chase and
And
L
also,
Sword. I almost said Grand Sword.
yeah, I almost say Grand Sword, but it's a bit legit, but not that,
I'd play that game.
that's gonna be a really interesting game to play.
But yeah, let's talk about let's brush on MMOs that were not really popular.
Okay.
Let me start. I played just a bit. I played Risk Your Life. It's an MMO that lets you choose between two factions. You choose either human or I think orcs. And the human class has three classes. I think warrior, ranger, and mage. And the orc faction has the same classes, basically counterparts. And you start out in your own respective villages or worlds, whatever. And if you meet a member of the other faction, it's instant versus player action. Unfortunately, I don't know anybody. I only played this with a couple of friends, and I don't know anyone else who played Risk Your Life. But it's interesting. Look it up. I'm not sure if it's still online right now. Oh, it is. It is online. But yeah, it's actually it's an interesting game, and it's one of those games that featured factions.
So speaking of factions, there are other games that were popular but not to the level of Ragnarok Online, MU, and Grand Chase. There's RF Online. RF Online is dear to my heart because my favorite K-pop star Kim Taeyeon from SNSD actually played this game. So yeah. So no, seriously, RF is close to my heart. Yeah.
You and your K-pop shit.
Don't say K-pop shit. We have K-poppers listening to us, man.
I'm just joking. I'm a bit of a K-popper
Yeah.
myself,
No,
and he
no.
knows this.
He's just to get sidetracked a bit. There's this one time I went to their house and we're supposed to play PS4 games that are manly as fuck, like Titanfall, and we just listen to K-pop. We're that fan, so never mind. So RF Online made you choose into three factions. There's what do you call this? Korra, like they're like nature-ish. They're kind of the elvish class. Then they have the summoner ranger and the warrior classes, which advances into no, the magic class, the range class, and the warrior class, which advances into more classes in the future. There's the summoner, the phalanx, or whatever. Next is the Belato. Since Korra has the summoner for its main what do you call this? Uh,
It's the main
Aspect?
class, basically. It's the class that represents their
Yeah.
race.
It's the meta class for Korra. So Belato has they can't summon, they can't use dark magic, they can only use light magic, which are elementals. Belato is like the technologically advanced dwarves, like gnomes of other games.
But even if they're considered as dwarves, it's just that they're short people. They don't really look like Lord of the Rings dwarves.
They're actually really cute, and some of them are sexy. Anyway, so the Belato can use the MAU, the mouse. I think the MAU mechanized Android unit, if I remember correctly.
These are the giant robots, right?
Mm-hmm. The mouse are not mouse like rats. MAUs or massive armored units. Sorry. So MAUs are used by the Bellator race to compete with the other races from in RF Online. So these are huge robots that yeah, Bellato actually lets you experience the armored core, the Gundam fantasies you had when you were when you were a kid. So after this, there's the Akresha race.
Oh, before you move on to the Akresha race, much like the Korra, the Bellato, I believe, had the... Wasn't it the mechanic or engineer?
The engineer class, yes. So the engineer class, these can build turrets. These are the classes that are mega defensive, but the turrets are really are. I'm talking like Jacksepticeye. These turrets are very good. No, these turrets can really kill the summons really fast.
Oh,
Mhm.
I have a question about the Bellato. If I remember correctly, any class, even the melee class or the range class for the Bellato, can pilot an
MMU,
MAU,
yeah.
but only an engineer can really bring out its true potential. Is that right?
And also, the engineers can heal MEUs using like repair kits and stuff.
Do they have like a specialized MAU that only they can use,
I
or no?
I don't know if the red MAU can only be used by that class, but there are a lot of MAUs before RF went down. There are a lot of MAUs um, here. We actually brought out the MAU wiki page. So there are a lot of MEUs, and you need to have like unit points for it. There's the black Mao, there's the red Mao. This is the one that I'm talking about, and these are not your usual MAUs. You need to be specialized. If you're building turrets and you want to do MAUs, you can't do that both. If you can't have access to the red Mao because it involves you grinding at seriously, this game is so grindy because it doesn't allow you to add points. If you want to level a skill here in RF, you need to use it over and over and over again. So that's why it's so grindy. And just imagine leveling up turrets and leveling up mouse at the same time. So after okay, so let's move on to the other race, which are the Akresha. These are mecha races. If MAUs are like there's still massive armored units that you can ride, the Akresha are actual robot androids. And contrary to popular belief that like Akresha is evil, they're actually the slaves and they lost their bodies, and the only way for them to survive is to put their consciousness inside these armored androids in order to preserve their way of living. Yeah.
Well, I think that is due to how the artwork was portrayed when it
Mm-hmm.
was launched, because you had the Korra, which are really like Tolkien elves. You know, they're really beautiful, and you have the Bellato, which they also have the pointy ears, but they are more human,
Mm-hmm.
human-like, and of course, then you have the biological machines, the Akresha, and from the artwork itself, they kind of look evil and sinister. But to be honest, when I played RF, because this is also a game that I played briefly, I picked the Akresha race because they look cool.
They look cool as hell. Seriously, the Accretions. Here's an excerpt from the wiki page. Accretions left their human bodies for stronger mechanical ones. They cannot use force, which is the magic force in the game. They call it force.
This what the Korra use?
And Korra and Belado. So there's dark force for the Korra and light force for the Belado. Okay. So dark force is a more advanced version of the force. It's an attacking force. This allows them to use summoning, and light force just allows people to use advanced healing and stuff like that. Okay, Accretions cannot use force, sadly, but they have extremely strong defense and supporting armors instead. If see, you cannot blame them for or like tag them as something evil if they can only use supporting armors and have extremely strong defense. And I think if I remember correctly, these Accretions are oppressed people. they are oppressed humans that in order for them to survive, they left their bodies in order to gain access to a better lifestyle. Yeah.
I believe that there's a lot of lore in this game. Basically, you had a lot of stuff going on in the background, and I think it plays to that to the faction aspect of the
Mm-hmm.
game. How does factions work here exactly? If I remember correctly, when you talk, like say for example, I'm an aggression, right? Like I'm an aggression what ranger,
Mm-hmm.
and we meet on one of those PvP areas where the three races intersect. When I talk, can you actually understand what I'm saying?
No, it will appear as random gibberish in your um, monitor. It will appear as random symbols, like random words, and it's like, oh, what the hell is this guy talking about? So this is the you can actually use the notion that's very popular modern saying na baka minumura ka na ng mga yan. Yeah, it actually applies here. Yeah, even though they're just asking for help on that alpha drone that you saw trying to murder your people, and they're gonna think, oh my god, is this Allahu Akbaring our base? Yeah.
I think I think that's a great aspect of the game. Basically, it really forces people to choose sides. And I believe that when you meet another race on the battlefield or in the playing fields, it's an instant PvP encounter.
Mhm.
Basically, you guys can just duke it out right then and there. And the fact that you can't understand what the other person is saying when they type, there's no way for you to actually cooperate unless you just choose the path of peace. Because if you don't attack, maybe he won't attack you. Maybe he'll leave you alone.
Maybe. That's the keyword there, maybe. And have not being able to understand each other uh, means that there's actually no room for negotiations. There's no room for negotiations in this game. If you see someone, you either attack it or you don't. But if you don't, there's always a risk of it or them attacking you. So you need to get that thought in mind. So either you attack first, you hide, or if they see you, you die. That's it. That's it. I'm sorry. This game is so brutal. I love it so much. And also, here in RF, there's a political kind of thing going on. There's for example, in the Korites, the Koran race, the Holy Alliance Korra, there's the Archon. So Holy Korra Alliance is actually, or rather, in this game, you can elect the supreme leader of your race. So basically, you're the president of the whole Korra population, and you have like senators and stuff. You can build your own government. This is a really, really um what do you call that? Advanced game that's not for people that doesn't know how to just in it for fun. For yeah.
I remember one friend told me, this is a mutual acquaintance, by the way. He actually represented the Accretion race.
Who's this?
Um, it's one of our friends, and basically he was really shocked when that happened. But yeah, it's basically how this game works. You get to elect people who would represent your race,
Mhm.
and they have no choice. They have to represent the race, and basically these players have invested a lot of time in the game, and people know them, and people depend on them. So it really works. Basically, people are given the power to choose who they want to represent them.
Yeah, and seriously, being a uh being a representative or the archon of one of the races in RF means you shoulder how your economy works. You shoulder the prices. There are also guilds seeking or guilds the races seeking fame and allowing people to control how the mines. It's such a big game. Too bad that there are other games that overshadowed it. So again, if you have experiences in any of the games that we've talked about, we'd love to hear from you in the comment section below. Okay, so another MMORPG that was really promising but didn't had that long or that uh, day in the spotlight was Rush on 7 episodes or Rose Online. Yeah. Why are you facepalming, Czar?
I remember playing this game. This is a 3D MMORPG, and it's somewhat similar to Ragnarok Online, but it's more cute. Basically, you have characters that are sort of super deformed, and one of the main features is basically you can ride cars. You can build a car in the game and ride it.
Yeah, and actually, it's so fun playing this game when it was popular back then because again you start as a what do you call this novice. I think they call it traveler. Hey, traveler.
It is very similar to Ragnarok in
Mm-hmm.
that aspect.
And you can access three other jobs. This is if you're a hawker, you can either go for scout or raider. If you're a dealer, you can go for the bourgeois or the artisan. If you're a soldier, you can either go the champion or knight. And if you're a muse, you can either go cleric or mage. So these the other thing that made it really a bummer for me when I was playing RF is you can only access these after you get into level 100. So it's a different kind of rebirth, but it was so worth it.
I believe that during the height of the game's popularity, I believe that Alodia, one of our
Mm-hmm.
celebrated cosplayers over here in the Philippines, advertised this game. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, some of my friends actually played with Alodia back in the game. Yeah, and yeah, I have comments, but I'm not entitled to say it here. No, I'm purposely lowering my voice when saying this. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's like you're whispering.
Yes, it's an ASMR thing. Anyway, so Rose, Russian 7 episodes. Again, there's 7 episodes in this game story. Here in the Philippines, you only experience 2. Then it died.
So
After
it
the third one was released, it died.
so it is indeed supposed to be 7 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean with 7 episodes? I believe there was something about planets
Mm-hmm.
in this game.
So 7 episodes means 7 planets. 7 episodes means there are 7 story arcs that you need to finish per planet in order to you need to finish the story arc in order to have access to the other planet. These are series of quests, adventuring, and there's a lot of adventuring that you need to do in order to progress into the another planet. The first planet features like in a tropical zone. It's kind of like a normalish planet. Then there's also a planet that's deeply covered in ice. So each planet constitutes of different elemental factors or different weather factors, different terrain, different types of enemies, and we were supposed to experience all of this here in the Philippines, but sadly we didn't have um, the we haven't experienced it long enough before it died down. Yeah.
I believe that this game played similarly to Ragnarok Online. Basically, you had job advancement. You have the same type of combat as Ragnarok Online. Basically, you click on an enemy and RNG, random number generators, takes care of the fight itself. But one aspect of this game that's very unique is the vehicle, the car. Talk to me about the car because I was not able to build one. I also played this game for a bit because I sampled a lot of MMORPGs back in the day, and one of the draws for me was the car. But sadly, I lost my patience. I was not able to build a car. What's the car about?
So basically, cars in, or rather, we call it carts. Okay. So there are different carts here in Rose. Some can be bought with the plans, can be bought with real money. You purchase the plans in game. Some of them can be hunted, and you get an initial cart at the start of the game. It's made of wood and metal. It doesn't look really fun. It doesn't look really sexy. It doesn't provide that much speed, but at least it's better than walking. Because in this game, excuse me, the maps are so big that you seriously need that car to go around. It's so big. Unlike in Ragnarok and MU, like you can find enemies like practically next to each other. Here you need to walk a few seconds, like 3-4 seconds. That's a lot of walking to find the next enemy, even if the enemies are spawned greatly in that map. It's that big. So if you want to go around, you need that cart. So the carts range from, again, the wood and metal ones into awesome cars. Look at this. There's a Spider-Man fucking cart. And there's also the pig carts, the race car looking carts. There are some edgy cars as well. Here, look. You can ride a mech.
I am seeing robots. What are these robots about?
These are carts.
So these are the same thing as these cars.
Mm-hmm.
The carts. They're also called carts, but do they have... Can you fight in a cart?
In a cart, usually no. But these are specially made so you can, well, as you can see, it has a shield and a spear. So it allows you... you can't use skills, but I think it allows you some form of defense.
Okay.
Instead of just, again, using your character. But again, no skills, just a full-on brawl using these robots. So, the game, there are several types of the robots. There's the drill, the saw, the knight, and the, what do you call this? Like the buster gun, whatever. It's a castle gear. Basically, they guard your castle and you can pilot them, whatever. In the future updates of Rose. Yeah, we need to talk about that later too. The castle acquisition and games.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah, we're gonna talk about that later. But here in Rose, there's also you can acquire castles for your guilds, for your teams. We're gonna talk about that later on. So it's one aspect of an MMO that's well loved by many, and some of it's turns out to be the only reason why people are playing the game. Okay, so after Rose defunct here in the Philippines, I looked for other. There was Pristine Tale. Pristine Tale, I only played it for like a week because it doesn't make sense. Yes,
I remember Pristine Tale. A lot of the people behind Pristine Tale were promoting it heavily to the point that they would visit internet cafes and offer you some sort of code for use in the game or something. And basically, they want you to pull in other players. And it wasn't good looking. It looked boring. So I never played it a lot. I played it briefly, but then I dropped it.
Oh.
Not even a week. I think maybe 3 hours or something.
So, Prison Tale didn't really catch all that attention here in the Philippines. The graphics were like rose. They were in 3D but cutesy cutesy. But as I was searching right now, I saw Prison Tale 2 and it just jumped quality. From being a cutesy cutesy MMO, it turned out to be like some of the newer MMOs like Terra. Oh, by the way, guys, we're not gonna talk about those newer MMOs. Maybe just mention a bit of them, like Terra Online, the good graphics type MMOs, because they're not really in the golden age anymore. They're on the modern age of MMORPGs.
I think we can talk about that in a later episode.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Terra Online or maybe even Final Fantasy
11
14.
and 14.
Yeah.
And
I think
Guild Wars.
I think Final Fantasy 11 was a part of the Gold Age, but
Yeah.
it was not popular here in the
Mhm.
Philippines.
So, yeah, we're gonna talk about that later on, since those games require a much more in-depth look in them, because they all have one thing in common that made them stand out in all of the MMORPGs, which is graphics. It's the modern age MMORPGs is the graphic age of MMORPGs. Sorry, fans. I'm not trying to down your favorite game, but I'm sorry, but it's just like that. Yes. Also, so let's get back on track. So Prison Tale, again, I tried playing that, didn't quite like it. I'm sorry, Prison Tale fans, but if you had good reception to the game, just tell us what made it fun for you guys. We're happy to hear what you think about it. Yeah.
Oh, there's also this game that was heavily based on, I think, Indian mythology. I think it's Tantra.
Yeah.
Talk about Tantra,
Okay.
because I played that again, just briefly, as the monk type character. I think it's called, what was it called? It wasn't the Asura.
No, I was the Asura on Tantra. I was wearing the Sopuru set, so praise me. When Sopuru set was just starting, I was wearing that set, bro.
What was my class? It was the class that...
Raksasha. It's a Raksasha, I think.
Oh, okay.
Or it's either the Raksasha or the Yaksa. Let me check.
I think it is the Yaksa.
The Yaksa class.
Yeah, the class that uses fists.
Yeah, it's the Yaksa. So, yeah, I think the sword types are the Raksasha. I just can't remember. I was really in my Sopuro set.
Did this game catch on?
This game caught on massively. Seriously. They even had the lahat ng babanggay magigiba song by Sandwich.
Oh, yeah, I
That's
remember
for
this.
Tantra. Actually, this game caught on. It's a really, really fun game. They based it on like the Hindi, not actually Indian. In the Hindi mythology. That's why the classes are called the Asura, the Yaksa, the Raksasha. These are the this game or this Tantra played differently from MU, since it's more on league with MU than Ragnarok. Since let's start to separate the cute games from the graphic games on the Golden Age. There's cute games and the graphic games. So in Tantra, the best thing that happens, or one of the things that are really I'm into Tantra, is the armors get updated. Even in MU, the armors got updated if you change your armor into something else. But in Tantra, they just went full on awesome with uh, how the characters look. They didn't cut corners and making them look better.
Basically, with the cute RPGs like Ragnarok, when you equip an item or an armor set, it doesn't really show in the graphics. Basically, the only thing that shows up is your headgear. But in Tantra and in MU, somewhat in MU, when you changed equipment, it will be reflected in the graphics. You can see what your armor truly looks like. And it's one of those early games that really allowed people um, to just fashion it up.
It doesn't have a word. It's just you fashion your characters to death. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're weak as fuck. As long as you wear that sexy armor, you're strong. And again, these, I think, Tantra uh, was one of the early games that proved that more skin means more defense. Yeah. the, I think I really think Tantra was one of those games. I'm sorry guys. But again, I love Tantra as well. It has a unique spot in my heart, especially the girl Asura. And if you have any experiences in Tantra, I know a lot of people that got addicted into Tantra into pro levels. Some of them are girls, just because they love the armor customization. Let us know on the comments below, because we would like to discuss again. We would like to hear your stories, and I don't know, maybe we can feature your stories in another podcast episode. Yeah, so
Yeah,
something
that
like
that would be a great idea if people could like submit their own personal MMORPG stories, and we could probably talk about it on another episode.
So, another of the graphics, golden age graphics types of games is one of the most popular MMORPGs that hit in the Philippines post Ragnarok, post MU, which featured a school battling system. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I'm rolling my eyes right now.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's ran online. I think this features heavily into Korean culture. Basically, again, it is one of those games that will show what your character actually looks like when you equip armor on your character. It will show up on the graphics.
But don't worry, it doesn't show that much skin, because ran online, even though the wallpapers look really like sexy and stuff and sultry and stuff, the once you have armors, the armors are seriously armors. And the earlier ran format didn't allow gender. You choose your a specific you choose your gender for the classes. So if you go, yeah,
Basically, the class is locked into that gender.
yeah, exactly. I suck at explaining things. Yeah, so if you go for either brawler or the swordsman, you get a male character. If you go for the shaman and the archer, you get a female character. I went for archer not because it's female. One fourth, that's only one fourth of the reason, but because the archer's playstyle is very unique in this game. It heavily relies on AoE, like serious AoE. Um, Here in this game, there's no class advancement, but what this game featured for the players is the ability to control what type of playstyle you're gonna use for your brawler or for your character. For example, you have a brawler. No three brawlers have the same playstyle. One can go either power type. One can go the dexterity route, and one can go train in the arts of intelligence. they have different power strengths and weaknesses. The power types, which focuses on punches, these types deal the most damage, and they can often one hit mobs or even people in PvP. The dex types, which in case of the brawlers, can focus on kicks, and these are people that just flies across the room and just kicks people to death. They are really fast. And the int types doesn't even need to come in contact with anyone because they can send their chi energy to just do Hadouken shit on your ass. So I know you played this for a little while. What's your excuse now, Czar?
The aesthetic didn't really catch my attention. This reminds me of the anime Tenjo Tenge somewhat. Basically, you guys have, even though you equip armor, it doesn't look completely like armor. Some of the starting gear looks like school uniforms, I believe. And basically, the play style is similar to Ragnarok Online for most of the characters. You click on an enemy, and basically the computer will take care of calculating the damage, and if you dodge or whatever. It's just that back in the day there was a ton of MMORPGs, and I remained faithful to Gunbound and Ragnarok Online, but I still sampled Ran as well, and I think this is still like live, right? People are still playing this right now.
There are some private servers. Private servers are servers made by those private companies or private people. The people that not affiliated with the producers or the devs for that certain game. It's mostly illegal, but private servers allows you much more freedom. For example, you don't need to grind so much because they have boosted experience, and you can just uh, level up and focus on PvP, on hanging out with people. It's much more casual than the actual game.
Why do these private servers exist? Like, I from what I remember, when people got dissatisfied with the vanilla game, the like say for example, Ragnarok Online, a lot of private servers started sprouting up, and this was still when Ragnarok was still up and running. A lot of private servers showed up. I think one of the reasons I think that private servers were popular is because you can sample classes and jobs that were not really available to your country but are already available somewhere else. And basically, these private servers either would either ask for a small donation, or you can just register for free. And these are being managed by private individuals. Now, I've only played briefly on one private server for Ragnarok Online, and yes, just as John said, the experience is boosted. You have basically you can level up really quickly, but I don't think the community aspect is as strong as in the legit servers.
Also, in private servers, it's easier to leave those kinds of servers because you don't really spend um time on it, since you don't grind. You don't develop enough connections except for people whenever you sit in a certain part of the town and you just socialize. But don't get me wrong, I've been in private servers before that actually I have friends from private servers, and they were pretty decent people. And so it's your call if you like. Tell us in the comment section below if you like private servers more than the uh, public or the official servers, and maybe again we can talk about that later on if you want to talk with us about that. Also, okay, so we've basically by ending with Ran, we're closing up on the um games portion of of this podcast. So we've talked about I think, yeah, Ran was the last popular MMORPG here. So it's something that uh, people remember in the golden age of MMORPGs. There are a lot of other games out there, especially international games that didn't quite hit the Philippine shores. That there's this Shin Megami Tensei Imagine. This is Mega 10 Online. This is really cool. There's Dream of Mirror Online. There's also Luna Online. There's the extremely popular World of Warcraft. So there are other games like this. We're gonna talk about this in another episode, different from the modern era, since these are the international games that were heavily played and heavily sought out by Filipinos, but we didn't really had a chance to play with them.
Yeah, they were not basically they were not released locally. There was no local support for these games. They were not promoted in the Philippines at all. But a lot of Filipinos would do things just to get access to these games.
There were proxies, server proxies, and stuff. And the some Filipinos are really good at this game, but there's one common enemy that we're facing whenever we play international games like this, which is lag. Yeah. So, okay. So, since we're done talking about games, I told you that we're gonna talk briefly about the contents of each game, or shall we make it into a part two?
I think we could turn it into a part two. Let's talk about concepts, basically like castle building, or and different factions, how that
PvP?
plays out, even PvP. I think we can talk about that in another podcast. I think we could wrap this one up. It has been such a wonderful experience for me personally, growing up and experiencing the boom of the MMORPG scene here in the Philippines. It was a fun time, and it was a time of innocence. Ragnarok started it all, and my experiences with Ragnarok will stay with me forever. And I met a lot of friends in Ragnarok. Some of those people I am still friends with up to now, and I'm very thankful that Level Up brought that game to the Philippines.
I was so sad that I didn't get to kick your ass in PvP and Ragnarok back then. We haven't met back then, or else we could have been doing the podcast long ago. Yeah. So, yeah, according to Czar, like what Czar said, I mean, these MMORPGs stayed within the hearts of many a Filipino PC gamer. And sadly, the fall of the MMORPG genre started here in the Philippines when, again, there were so many MMORPGs to choose from. The graphics age of MMORPGs were introduced, and the MMO killer, which were the MOBA games, was became the staple game here in the Philippines.
We should also talk about that, the rise of the MOBA.
Yes, if the video killed the radio star, then MOBA killed the MMO star, guys. It's just that it happens. Also, in MMORPGs, those games that we talked about are really dear to our hearts. Doesn't matter if we played it too much. Doesn't matter if we played it a little bit. It will always be something we can talk to other people about. For example, like this. We just talked in an hour and 30 minutes at this moment just about different kind of games. But one time me and Zar talked about a lot of Ragnarok stuff. It almost cost that around 4 hours just talking about Ragnarok. It's that big. And don't get us wrong. Earlier we were talking about Grand Chase and Elsword, and even though Czar only played it for a while, he was so interested in the idea. That's how MMORPGs connect people. The experiences, the fun stories you have together with other people, or even by yourself, dying by that random wanderer just lashing your face off. It's so worth it. The money spent on the computer shops was so worth it. The times you didn't. Oh wait, let's not say that, but it's so worth it. I was about to say you didn't go to school.
Oh my god, I'm guilty of cutting classes just to play Ragnarok online. And just like what John is saying, MMORPGs allow you to build a story of your own. You're not a slave to the game's narrative, basically. Unlike conventional games, single player games, you have to follow the story. You're playing as a character from that game. But in an MMORPG, you craft your own story. You're your own person. You make your own decisions. Okay? And you choose your friends. You choose who you want to be with. You choose who you want to fight with. And I think that's really the beauty of MMORPGs that single player games can never really touch on. And with that, we'll be ending this episode.
Thank you for listening, guys.
Thank you for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And
Yeah, and if you want to, again, we keep saying this while we're doing, while we're talking about those games earlier. If you have any experiences at all with these games, we would like to hear your comments below, because it would really mean so much to us from talking to you guys on what you enjoyed, since these I know these games are really dear to our hearts. Let's not kid ourselves. Don't lie, bitches. Yeah. So again, this is Oh My, it's John.
And this is Czar from Chudendary Beats.
And we are the Promised End Podcast. Good day, guys.
Good day, guys. Until next time.
Until next time. Bye-bye.